you gonna help me do my intro like usual? Are you gonna help me do my intro like usual? Basically, every one of my episodes starts with you, so this is just a thing now. Mwah. Hello everybody, and welcome to episode 15 of the NovelTea Knitting Podcast. I am your host, Emma. I'm here to talk to you about all things knitting, crafty, basically anything cozy that takes my fancy. The last episode that I posted had quite a good reception, I think. It was a little bit less structured than what my episodes are usually like. I didn't have quite as much of a script. But I had more fun recording those, and everyone seemed to agree that I just seemed a little bit higher energy, and I seemed like I was having a little bit more fun. So we're going to continue with that style of quite unstructured, just gonna talk about the things that I had to talk about, and we'll see how it goes. I do still have to tell you about the tea that I am drinking today. I am once again using my Happy Fall mug because this is my only fall mug, and it is most definitely officially fall. I've got my cozy oversized sweater on, I've got mitts, and yes, my earrings do match my shawl, because I made these earrings using the same yarn that I made this shawl with. So the tea that I am drinking is special because I grew it. It is actually a peppermint. It's a chocolate peppermint, and I have not actually tried it yet. I have a lot of mint growing right now. I have just regular mint, just like mint that you buy from like Home Depot or whatever. I also have 4 peppermint plants growing, and then I have a chocolate peppermint and an apple peppermint, and I have not managed to get quite enough of the apple mint yet to properly make some tea out of it, but this was my first harvest of the chocolate mint, and I have not tried it yet, so this is going to be my first sip. If we're talking about smell, the smell is, it's basically identical to those, like, mints, those after-dinner mints or whatever that you get at, like, slightly fancy but not that fancy restaurants, like, or maybe at, like, Olive Garden or something. But they're red and white striped, and they're, like, short and stout. I will try and find a picture of what I'm talking about, but it smells exactly like that somehow, which is so weird. I don't get any chocolate notes out of it at all. It's very good. It's very, very good. I think I like this better than the plain mint. I want to say that mint, like what you can get from like Home Depot or whatever, is more on the spearmint side, and this is peppermint, obviously, but this tastes like Christmas. Because it just, I mean, peppermint, it's not surprising that it tastes like Christmas, because peppermint is just such a huge Christmas thing. So I have Christmas tea, apparently, in my fall mug. So grab yourself a cup of tea and let's get started. First up today is actually a new cast on, and I am showing it to you guys first because my friend Taylor cannot see this until after I've given it to her. It's not that big of a deal. I'm not saving it for like a holiday or a birthday or anything like that, but I do just want to still surprise her with it, so I am going to be able to tell her that she can start the video after I talk to you guys about this. So in the last episode, I asked everybody what they thought I should do about the fact that Taylor had already knit her daughter a Gramps cardigan in the size that I was planning on knitting her, with the same color of like cuffs and button band that I was planning on knitting. The only difference was going to be the main body color, which on the one that Taylor already made was gray, and on the one that I'm making is like a mustard color. And the consensus seemed to be that I should definitely just knit a size up in the same colors, and she will grow into it probably. Well, I mean, she will definitely grow into it, but hopefully she will grow into it in such a way that she will be able to wear it before the season changes and she grows out of it. So without further ado, I can show you that I have made significant progress. I love baby sweaters. They just knit up so fast. I actually cast this one on Sunday last week. I cast this on the very first day of my vacation. I took a vacation, by the way. Michael and I have a tradition now of staying up in Gaylord for a week in October. If you're not familiar with Michigan, here is a map, and here is Gaylord. That is up north from where we are from. But we get a cabin and we just kind of hang out, and we don't really do a whole lot. I have a problem usually when I take vacations where I feel like I need to constantly be doing things to make sure that I'm enjoying myself. A typical vacation for me is going to Disney World, where you have to wake up early to get to the parks, to go and properly enjoy yourself. Everything is really scheduled. Everything, like, you are constantly on the move, and that's very much what I'm used to. I have been a big traveler in the past. I've traveled a lot of Europe. I studied abroad in Taiwan, and so when I was on those trips, it was always very, like, go, go, go. You gotta see all the sights because you never know when you're gonna be back here. And so that is typically how I treat my vacations. But Gaylord is the exception to this rule, because I find that I am able to just completely chill when we go to Gaylord. Even when we go camping or whatever, like, I have a really hard time just, like, sitting at the campsite and enjoying a fire. But when we go up to this cabin in Gaylord, which I have video footage of that I'm going to show you, the cabin is just so sweet and so cute. It's not too far away from town, but it's enough away from town that it's kind of a pain to like pack everything up and go into town. There's not a whole lot to do around it. Anything that we would do is like a day trip away. So it's like an hour to an hour and a half drive there, and then an hour and a half drive back. So we typically go up, we do one thing big, like we will go to another city that's far away or something for one day. And then the rest of the time that we're up there, we just chill. We watch YouTube, and we play video games, and we sit in front of the fireplace, and I knit, and we read, and it's just relaxing. Obviously, once we have kids, it probably won't be as relaxing. We might not be able to do that sort of thing, because obviously kids need to be entertained. So it's just sitting around and doing absolutely nothing for 5 days is not very appealing to a 7-year-old, I can't imagine. Anyway, I cast this on the first day that we were in town, and I just sped right through it. Of course I did, because it's a baby sweater, and it really should not take very long at all. I just cast off the second sleeve last night. Can't remember now which one was the second sleeve, but, you know, whichever. And I picked up all of the stitches for the button band. The Gramps Cardigan has a big shawl collar, so I'm really curious as to how this is going to work. The button band and the shawl collar did come in like pieces, so there are 5 pieces to it, and there are instructions on how to pick all of them up, and they differ based on the piece. I do highly recommend this pattern, unsurprisingly. Tin Can Knits is magical. They are one of the best companies when it comes to producing like indie patterns. I am extremely excited with how much I was able to get done. Again, I know that it's just a baby sweater, and of course it knits up fast, but I'm still really proud of myself. It is so cute. I really love the way these two colors play together. It's just so fall. So many fall vibes, and I love it. I do still have quite a bit of the yarn that I've been using left, which I'm very happy about, because that means that I can make Gwen a hat. I do still have to use some of this, obviously, for the shawl collar, but I can't imagine that I'm going to use so much that I cannot knit the brim of a baby hat. And so I'm going to use this for the brim of the hat, and then what I have left here with the mustard color, I'm going to use for the body of the hat. I think that I am going to do another Tin Can Knits pattern. I think it's called Antlers? Whatever it is, I'm sure it's up on the screen. And I will be knitting that for Gwen, because Taylor has actually specifically requested a hat, just because it is getting cold. It is cold already, and I don't think Gwen has a hand knit hat. Or if she does, she doesn't have one that fits her just yet or anymore, one of those two. So there's lots of baby knitting in my future. Speaking of which, actually, I always want to knit so many more projects than what I actually have time for. But I also want to use some of this cotton to make some, technically I think the pattern is called like a baby shawl, but it's basically a bib. I want to use this to make some bibs for Gwen, but I actually got this cotton and then I have like a lighter green color and a cream color. They are all from Taylor that she asked, oh, would you have a use for these? And I was like, yes, I definitely do. But of course I haven't told her that it would be for her. I actually got the idea for these baby shawls from The Drunk Knitter, which I will link to her channel up in the thing and then also in the description down below. She had an episode ages back now where she talked about her favorite knits for her own baby. She posted this episode not long after she had her baby. If that gives you any idea of how long it's been since this video went up, because her baby's not such a baby anymore. I'm pretty sure he's a toddler. But anyway, I just completely loved that episode where she recommended all of these different baby knits and I like started writing them down, and then I was just like, I just love all of the ideas in this episode, and so I just like made note of the episode and the fact that it was The Drunk Knitter, and I was like, when I need it, which is now, I will go find it. That is actually not it for the friends and family section. I actually have a little bit of sewing to show you, or well, I have some fabric to show you. I have decided to make this project for a few of my friends and family. It's just super basic. Basically what happened was that Joann's had flannel on sale, and their flannel is my weakness, and I love it so much, and the patterns that they have in flannel are always the cutest things in the world. So I was like, what could I make out of flannel? And as I was thinking about this, I thought, you know what's a really easy project to make is a bunch of neck warmers. So these are going to be just folded in half, just like this, seamed up the edges, and then you pour rice into it, and then you can microwave that rice and it heats up and it doesn't burn as long as you have used like cotton and everything. You heat that up and you can hold it around your neck. If you have like a neck ache, it fits really nicely around your neck. If you have cramps or something, you can put it on your stomach. You can put it for back pain, or you can just use it if you need a bit of a warm up. So yesterday I got all of these out. I think I have something like 16 or something like that to make. I will show you guys some of the prints. This one, I'm flipping a door. It is so cute. And Michael and I have a big thing with otters, because otters have this quirk, in case you didn't know, because it's very popular on the internet. But the partners or parents or whatever, if two otters don't want to like float away from each other, they will hold hands while they sleep so that they don't float apart. That kind of caught mine and Michael's imagination, and we just think it's really cute, and something that comes up with us is just kind of a, not quite an inside joke, but an inside thing to talk about, I guess. I don't know. So I got some of this to make, at least for me and Michael. The rest of these patterns are for friends and family. I've got this gorgeous fall hedgehog design. I really love hedgehogs. I have actually started getting more and more in love with them as time goes on. I started really loving them when I took this like silly quiz online or whatever, and it was, what kind of hiberknitter are you? And I got hedgehog, and I just thought that was the cutest thing. If I can find the quiz, I will put it in the I will put a link in the description down below. But yeah, so we've got these cute fall hedgehogs, got the snowflakes that I showed you, the otters, and I've got these floral hedgehogs, which I'm having trouble with. Okay, yeah. So some floral hedgehogs. I really love this one as well. It's going to be, oops, it's upside down. It's going to be hard, honestly, not to make myself one of these things out of every one of these fabrics, because I just love all of them so much, but I definitely don't have need of like 5 different rice bag warmers. Whatever. After I've cut all of these out, I also have a lot of leftover fabric because I ordered online from Joann's. I ordered online and did an in-store pickup, and so you are only able to order one, like, a full yard at a time. You can't do like half or quarter yards, which I would usually do. So for the most part, I have way more fabric than what I need. So I am thinking of also trying to fashion some hand warmers. So it's basically the same concept, but the hand warmers would be like small and square. You can put them in your pockets if it's cold outside, or you can heat them up before you leave and put them in your pockets if it's cold outside and you know you're going to be out for a while. I don't actually know the utility of that, but it sounds like a good idea. So I would like to at least give it a shot. I just need to cut out those squares yet. But I have, I think, more than enough sewing to do for right now. Not that this is going to take me a whole lot of time, because they're all straight lines. There's nothing like fiddly or anything like that about these. I do still have to order the rice, because to get like 16 of these filled with rice, I'm gonna need some bulk rice, that's for sure. And they're not supposed to be, you know, filled to the brim or whatever, because you're supposed to be able to move them. They're supposed to be fairly flexible. But that is just a fun project that I have gotten started, and I just need it to be done by Christmas. I am actually moving into a lot of Christmas planning, if not like actively working on Christmas projects, because November is a very busy month for me. I have NaNoWriMo coming up, which is National Novel Writing Month, and that means I have to be writing 1,667 words for every single day in November, including Thanksgiving. Like, you don't get Thanksgiving off or anything. And I am hosting Thanksgiving for the very first time ever. Michael and I are hosting, so we have a lot to do with that. And I mean, we're going to make it work, but our house is still completely in shambles. Not our whole house, just the kitchen. The kitchen is still very jerry-rigged right now. So that's going to be fun. So I am trying to do stuff here and there now while I have the time before November comes around and I am just running around like a chicken with its head cut off. Moving on to projects that my friends and family can watch, I have an update for this quilt that I sewed together like 2 years ago. To clarify what has happened with this quilt is that basically my mom and I got these jelly rolls. I got her one of them for Christmas. It was going to be this big project that we did together because she and I both have been wanting to get into quilting, so I thought this was a good starting point. But I got that for her 2 Christmases ago, and it has taken us this long just to even think about starting the backing. We got all of this seamed together quite soon after we got the jelly rolls. However, then the pandemic hit, and we could not spend that much time together. I want to say that we first worked on these sometime in January or February, and then they obviously have seriously languished for the last year, 2 years-ish, year and a half, just because, I mean, we couldn't get together to do the sewing, we couldn't get together to, like, figure things out together, and also, quite frankly, the sewing world, or at the very least the quilting world, I will say, I feel like garment sewing is a little bit more accessible, but the quilting world is kind of hard to get into. There seems to be this expectation that you are learning quilting from someone, and so there's not a lot of resources when it comes to figuring out what you're supposed to do for backing, what you're supposed to do for the batting in the middle. And so actually earlier this year, back in the summer, my mom and I visited Taylor, who has been quilting for a long while. She's a very experienced quilter. We went over partially so that my mom could meet Gwen, but also so that Taylor could show us exactly how you sandwich a quilt together, and then how you, not necessarily how you do the edges, but like options for the edges and everything. So we finally got that sorted, but then it has just kind of, my mom and I have both kind of been like dragging our feet just a little bit on ordering the backing fabric. We tried to go to a couple of different quilt shops so that we could get the backing fabric from there, but they don't the ones that we went to at least didn't have a lot of options as far as like the extra wide backing fabric. For us at least, we need something that's like, 108 inches wide. There's going to be tons of extra on the side, but if we were to use regular fabric, or what you typically associate with like a bolt of fabric, that length is not enough. So we would have had to seam up a couple different two different lengths of it, and it was going to be kind of expensive. It was also like an extra step that quite frankly broke my brain a little bit. I didn't really understand what was going on, so Taylor told us where we could find the extra large, extra wide backing fabric and everything, and my mom and I have both finally ordered some. This is where the update comes in. Actually, my mom and I have both finally ordered some. I ordered a walking foot for my sewing machine to make sure that we were able to seam everything together without breaking my machine. And we even set a date on the calendar this Saturday. So one day after this episode airs, my mom and I are supposed to get together and we will be working on finishing these quilts finally. Now, I talked quite a bit, actually, about what I got up to in Gaylord. I do just want to show you guys exactly how much stuff it was that I brought with me to Gaylord, because I brought 5 different projects, and I worked on 2 of them. So, the first one that I worked on, I showed you guys earlier. We're gonna keep that hush hush. I also brought with me those witchy vibe socks that I have been trying to work on for basically 2 months now. I'm still, once again, in love with these colors, and I have completely fallen out of love with the brioche. I have decided that I'm going to pull out the brioche and I am going to start over and do I'm sure that there's a word for it, but it's basically like a ribbing, but it's a color work ribbing. So it's knit like ribbing, but every other stitch is knit with the opposite color. And I think that will get the effect across that I want. It won't be quite as fun and squishy as the brioche, but it will work better as a cuff, I think. I won't have to do weird things with the stitch count of the cuff. The whole thing will just make more sense. So that was 2 projects. I also brought with me my Banff cardigan, and the reason that this one is not in a bag is because I actually just kind of bring this with me everywhere I go. This is my project that I keep in my purse for emergency knitting. This is such a silly story, but I had one experience where Michael and I, was during the pandemic, we actually drove down to Tennessee. And I was nervous about this the whole time, but so we drove down to Tennessee in June of 2020 because we were picking up Elena. So Elena is a Shih Tzu Toy Poodle mix, which is a very specific breed that we get it's just kind of the breed that Michael's family has always gotten. Fen is also a Shih Tzu Toy Poodle mix, even though the 2 of them look completely different. It seems like Fen got mostly Shih Tzu genes and Elena got mostly Poodle genes, which also might explain why she has so much energy. The Shih Tzu in her is technically supposed to make her a little bit less high energy, but she just did not get enough of that. And so even though she is sleeping now and she's being, an absolute angel, she is usually a living terror. So anyway, we drove down to Tennessee and I don't know how, I don't know what happened, but I forgot to bring knitting with me. It was insanity. It was just crazy that I forgot to bring this knitting with me. And we even, on our way down, we even tried to stop at a couple yarn shops, but of course the pandemic was on, so not every yarn shop was open. Most of them were in fact closed. And we found one that I thought was open. We got there and they didn't look open. And I had even been looking at their Instagram and everything, trying to figure out to make sure that they were open. And it turns out they had changed their hours just a week before. And they hadn't posted it. They had posted it on their Instagram, I think, but I had just missed the post somehow. It's very frustrating. And so I didn't have any knitting with me for the entire drive down to Tennessee and the entire drive back. And I was fidgety and anxious the whole ride, which is a very, very long ride. In case you're wondering, it's about 8.5 to 9 hours. I would say it's probably about 9 hours, including, stops, rest areas, and things like that. So now I keep this knitting in my purse so that I am never in the car without knitting, that I never have to worry about being without a project when I really need one. That did not get a lot of love or anything like that. I don't think I picked it up at all on the trip, but, it was there, just in case. And then, of course, I brought with me my Schnee, which also did not get a lot of love. I was working on the other project that I was told you guys about, but that does not mean that this sweater has not gotten a lot of love in the last 3 weeks, because I have made a ton of progress. So if you'll remember, in last episode, I had one sleeve done and I still needed to do the cuff because I had blocked out the project after doing that one sleeve just to see where the sleeve was going to hit me, to make sure that I hadn't knitted too much. And it turned out that I had knitted too much, so I had to pull back the cuff entirely, pull back, I think it was about 30 rows, and then reknit the cuff. So I finished that, and I finished the other sleeve as well. You can really tell the difference, maybe not in the camera, but I can really tell the difference between the blocked sleeve and the unblocked sleeve. This one is just a little bit crinklier, if that makes sense. Like, I can see the unevenness in my stitches a lot more clearly, but I guess, that is what blocking is for, in fact. So I'm very pleased with having gotten those sleeves done. I have stalled out on this a little bit just because I've been working on some other things. But I did cast on the body. I picked up the stitches for the body again. I switched it to a 40-inch circular. I had it on a 32 before. The 40 is so much better. I am so glad that I switched this, because I would have been capable of knitting it on the 32, but it would have been a little bit rough. I have been kind of sort of sometimes weaving in ends as I've been going. I also have a lot of areas where I have just had to magic knot it so that I can connect skeins, because when I took out the first version that I did, I just have lots of different skeins of this, okay? This already was probably four different skeins that I had of held together yarn, and there's just been so much cutting of it and piecing it back together, and I'm working on a very small ball of this right now, and I think that I have one more. No, I do not. So the rest of the skeins that I have are just singles, so I am just going to have to, hold them together like this, but none of them are the same length, so that's what I'm working with right now. I do still have to do a button band for this, and a button band and a collar for this once I finish the body, but I am going to be on the body for a really long time. I also noticed when I blocked this that it ended up a lot bigger than I anticipated. I have been trying to think about how I could maybe decrease some around just around the body, because it's not worth it to pick out or pull out the top of it. I am still going to love it. I'm probably going to, I will definitely love it more because it's oversized than if it were too small. So I stand by my decision to knit the larger size, but I think that once I get to a point where, once I'm trying it on and things, I feel like I'm kind of at the waist, I might do some waist shaping. It won't be noticeable, but it'll just mean that I have fewer stitches that I have to knit, which I'm here for. So we'll see what happens with that. But for right now, I am just hoping... No, that's not going to happen. I was going to say that I'm hoping to get this finished by the end of the year, but there's no way. There's no way. I have projects that I need to do for Christmas. I have gift knitting, and NaNoWriMo is not going to exactly allow for a whole lot of knitting time. So this is gonna get finished next year probably. I can't even remember how long ago I mentioned this, or if I brought it up in ages. But this was supposed to be a knit-along. This was supposed to be something that I did as a knit-along, and it was with my knitting club. There were 4 of us. We were all supposed to be knitting, you know, the 3 of them were knitting one project, and then I picked this because it looked somewhat similar to what they were knitting, but they were knitting something with raglan increases, and I cannot wear things with raglan increases. Obviously, I'm kind of lying because that's how this sweatshirt is built. But I have a really hard time with raglan shaping on like hand knit items. I think it has to do with just like how it's cut. Anyway, they were doing one sweater. I was doing this sweater. One of our members finished it super easy. We started in January. She finished it by like March or something like that. It was crazy. Another one of the members is, I think, finishing hers very soon. She has just a few, I think she texted us just the other day actually. She only has 25 rows left on the bottom of the sweater, but that means that she has some ribbing to knit, which is always a pain in the ass, quite frankly. So she's almost done with hers. It is only Kayla that I am about on par with, I think. She's still working on her yoke. The thing is that she's knitting quite a bit smaller of a size than what I am knitting, because obviously mine is hugely oversized, and I think hers is fairly fitted. Not necessarily super fitted, but, you know, more fitted than this. And so I have just she and I have been talking a lot, and I've just been assuring her that she will not be the last to finish, because I almost definitely will be the last to finish because I have so much to knit on the body. But yeah, that's where I'm at with the Schnee. I have a lot of work to do on it, but I have other things that need to get done before I can focus on this. And then the last project that I took with me for the trip were my Christmas socks. I have this one finished, which I don't think I had finished completely last episode. I think I was somewhere in the foot range. I remember talking quite a bit about how much I loved how this heel turned out. I did start this one. I tried to at least start this one on like the opposite stripe as I started this one, because I kind of like mismatched striping socks, self-striping socks. Shouldn't say kind of. I really like mismatched self-striping socks. I almost always knit them not identical. But yeah, so this one starts red and this one starts green, and I would think I was able to get it very, very close. I don't know if the striping was just slightly off or if my gauge changed slightly, but I did end up with less of a chunk of like the red here where I have a chunk of the green when I started the heel flap. I also had a debacle where I realized after I had finished knitting the heel flap and I had knit most of just the heel part, that I am pretty sure I only did 25 rows for my heel flap instead of my usual 30. And on this one I had done 25 instead of the 30, and I had done the 30 on this one. So that was fun. I was really happy with myself for that, because I couldn't write it down somewhere so that I would remember. I was just like, oh yeah, I'll remember that I made that change. That makes sense. So I'm almost done with these. These are seriously putting me in the Christmas spirit, though. I am just so in love with this colorway, which is this is so silly. This is again one of those things that's so silly, but I have not gotten rid of the West Yorkshire Spinners label because I'm going to keep this. But the colorway is called Candy Cane, and it is my first West Yorkshire Spinners yarn, and I have been wanting to work with this yarn for like 2 years. And so when I finally got my hands on some, and specifically the Christmas self-striping Christmas socks, which is what I really wanted to get my hands on, I decided that I'm keeping this label because it's just exciting. And I have like a little box where I put things that like are meaningful to me. It can be like movie tickets or cards or things like that, where it's just like, oh, when I go back through it, it's kind of like just like a memories box or whatever. And this is not going to take up that much space. So keeping that. That is all of the knitting and crafty content I have. I did want to show you guys the video footage that I got from Gaylord. So I kind of just, at the end of our stay, I was taking a bunch of pictures because my parents are considering going to this cabin and they wanted me to send pictures to them. So going through the whole cabin and taking pictures of every little thing, and I decided that it's hard to get a real sense of a place when you're doing just looking at photos, because it's hard to understand, like, sometimes it's hard to understand where the placement of things are. So I decided to do a video, and that's what you're looking at right now. This fireplace is a gas fireplace, and I wanted to use it all the time because it was so cozy, but honestly, it worked too well, and it would heat up the cabin way too much, and it would get too warm. So we actually left the windows open for basically the whole trip. There was a window up in the loft as well that we left open. But yeah, the whole trip, it was super cozy, super relaxing. I did get home and I was immediately filled with this sense that I had so much to do and so little time. I have been uploading Vlogmas most days. I have been going in order at the very least. I haven't uploaded since I think the 13th or the 14th as I'm recording this. Hopefully more than that has gone up since this is being posted. I do intend to catch up, but I was on vacation. I did do quite a bit of editing. I edited, I would say, at least 6 days, I think, while I was on vacation. And I did have fun with that, but then I got to, like, our last day, like our last full day, and I didn't want to edit. I wanted to play The Sims 4 for the entire day. So I sat on the couch in my pajamas, and I played The Sims 4 for like 10 hours straight. But I will be catching up with Vlogmas soon, hopefully, as I just need to get to the editing, and those will be going up until the 24th. But that is everything that I've got for y'all this week. I hope you all have a wonderful next couple of weeks. Please make sure that you like this video and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment down below. It really helps me out. But yeah, I will see you all in 2 weeks. For real this time, not 3 weeks, 2 weeks. Bye.